Well, over a month ago, President Uhuru Kenyatta, during Labor Day celebrations, revealed that over 500,000 jobs will be lost by September this year due to COVID-19. At the center of job loss conversation, we cannot avoid the fact that 84% of Kenya's workforce work under the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. I am Nokip Kimboy and this is KTN News Special. Now, to involve us in this particular discussion of the taxman and the SME sector and how the two aspects interact, we're going to be you can engage us in the live discussion later on, and that will be, you can send in your questions by logging into slido.com and enter the event code #KTN News Special. We are also available on Twitter at KTN News KE, at I know Keep Kimboy, and you can use the hashtag KTN News Special. Now on to our panelists. This evening we have Julius Yega, who is not yet with us, but Wanja Wangondu, who is Deputy Chief Manager and Assistant Chief Manager, to be specific, at the Taxpayer Services, Tax-Based Expansion and Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises at the Kenya Revenue Authority. She is responsible for taxpayer education, tax-based expansion and complaints resolution in the Domestic Taxes Department. She also contributes to stakeholders' engagements by disseminating technical and legal knowledge of interpretation of the Tax Act to the public. Wanja is seconded to Africa Tax Administration Forum Secretariat as an expert on informal sector. She is a part-time lecturer at a Kenyan university and a trainer at the Kenya School of Revenue Administration. In addition to this, she sits on a number of committees, including Taxpayer Month Committee, Service Implementation Service Board Team, and Redesigned Service Delivery Model Committee for KRA. Her notable achievements include her contribution to the ease of doing business by ensuring the duration of registering business, PIN, pay-as-you-earn, and value-added tax decreased from 30 days to 1 day. Wanja has vast experience and knowledge in domestic taxes, gained in over a period of 13 years. She is an accountant by profession and a member of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. And in that particular regard, we are also going to have the gentleman Julius Yega, who is the Chief Manager, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Taxpayer Services and Tax-Based Expansion at the Kenya Revenue Authority. He is responsible for taxpayers' education, tax-based expansion, complaints resolution, and manages over 400 staff in the Domestic Taxes Department. He has been in KRA for over 23 years. Currently, he is the Africa Tax Administration Forum Permanent Representative in the Technical Committee on Taxation of the Informal Sector. Yega has experience within the ICT division of the authority, where he served for 20 years as a manager, where he was involved in service management and service delivery. His training in education field saw him promoted to the Chief Manager of the Kenya School of Revenue Administration. Due to his experience in ICT, he was charged with the establishment of the KESRA e-campus, which is KRA's online training platform, where he served as the pioneer principal. Professionally, Julius Yega is a member of the Information Systems Audit and Control Association and is a former vice president of that particular association, the Kenyan chapter, a global body that brings together ICT professionals with several chapters globally, including Kenya. Yega also is a member of Comparative and International Education Society, that is CIES. CIES is the largest and the oldest of 47 comparative and international education societies around the world. He is also a lecturer and trainer at various institutions across this country, and they join us tonight for this discussion. Well, you can speak to us, engage us, and if you have any question in regards to SMEs and taxpayers, that is KRA, the taxation of SMEs, speak to us on Twitter at KTN News. The hashtag is KTN News Special, and you can also use the platform Slido, and the login code is KTN News Special, and we shall be sure to sample your views this evening. So today we are discussing this micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. The question is, what is an SME by definition? And this definition matters when it comes from the Kenya Revenue Authority, because they are tasked with collecting revenues from these associations. So starting with Wanjawa Ngondu, with definitions, what exactly, when you talk about MSMEs, what do we mean?
Good evening. MSMEs basically means medium, small, and micro enterprises. And maybe I would like Mr. Yeager to proceed on that definition.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Wanja, for that. Allow me to say that in regards to micro, small, and medium enterprises, these are the organizations that have formed part of the backbone of our economy. And according to the study and the survey that was conducted by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, Kenya has quite a number of these organizations in the country. And allow me to define them by the size of the employees that these organizations really have or employ. Let's start with micro enterprises. The micro enterprises are those organizations that employs less than 10 employees, while the small ones are the organizations that employ between 10 to 49 employees, and the medium enterprises are those that employ employees between 50 to 99. Allow me at this point to first and foremost thank the government for the opportunity that has been given to these institutions through MSEA so that they can at least conduct the businesses within the country. I've just indicated that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics conducted a survey in 2016, and given that we need to know how these organizations are spread within the country, it has been established that 92% are micro enterprises. 7.1% are the small, medium enterprises, while medium enterprises are taking about 0.7%. I did indicate earlier that when it comes to MSMEs, they really control and contribute so much to the economy of our country. The SMEs are subdivided according to sectors. We have them in the Juakali sector. We also have them in manufacturing. We also have them within the motor vehicle industry, where you have the Juakali mechanics, who are really contributing so much to the economy of our country. Having said the given number of employees that they employ in the country, it is important at this point in time to explain a few factors that are very important, and we would want all SMEs to take care of this. When you have an institution of an SME nature, it is important that you register your SME. The study found out that out of the SMEs that we have in the country, 1.56 million are registered within the county governments. 5.85 million are not licensed. Now, this becomes a challenge for us as Kenya Revenue Authority whenever we want to facilitate the SMEs. It is because for us to facilitate you, it is important that you're licensed. Now, this has been a bit of a challenge for us, and we want to appeal to the SMEs, more so the 8 that are not licensed, the 5.8 million that are not licensed. We want to appeal to them to come on board so that we can know them, so that we can know whom we are dealing with. But at this point in time, it's also good to indicate that currently in our country, the number of employees employed within the SME sector is 14.9 million. That is a big number. And that's why I was saying that SMEs are a major contributor to the economy of our country. I need to explain at this point in time that 8 million of these 14 million people are found within the wholesale and retail trade, and the vehicle industry where the mechanics are found. And so we appeal to them that wherever they are, feel free and come over to us so that we can facilitate you.
Okay. So, Mr. Yega,
at this point in time, it is important.
Yes.
Yes.
I think in the interest of time, you've really given us detailed data, and I really do appreciate that. The fact that majority of these SMEs in general, majority of them are small, over 90%. And this brings us to the question of taxation, because when we speak about KRA, the first thing that pops in mind is they're coming to collect something from my business. And I'd like to engage Wanja. This issue of taxation, how are SMEs taxed in Kenya?
Yes. Okay, now when we look at how the SMEs are taxed in Kenya, we would explain it in 2 ways. One, we have the unincorporated businesses. This is where people operate as maybe sole proprietor or partnerships, and then we have the limited companies. Now, what are these taxes that apply in this SME sector? The first tax is turnover tax. And turnover tax is a tax that initially was at 3% of gross sales. Now, the turnover tax is there for the SMEs whose turnover falls between 1 million in a year to 50 million. And as it is right now, limited companies are also paying that. The other tax that applies for the SMEs is income tax. Now, the SMEs are supposed to choose between turnover tax or income tax. Actually, if the sales are between 1 million to 50 million, one should be in turnover tax. But if one opts not to be in turnover tax, then they lie to the commissioner and notify the commissioner they would want to be in income tax. Then, for these persons as well, if one is dealing with fattable goods and services, then one is required, and the turnover is 5 million or more, one is required to be registered with the value-added tax. Those are the main taxes that apply for the SMEs. Now, how are the SMEs supposed to pay? If one is in the turnover tax regime, it is a monthly tax. So the filing and the payment of this tax is done whatever the trader sells, like in the month of January, the payments and the filing should be done on or before the 20th of February. So it's done every month. When we come to income tax, yesterday was the due date for filing the income tax for the individuals and for the corporates whose year ends on that 1st December. And when it comes now to that, what happens is, in the course of the year of operation, if the individual has tax payable for 40,000 or more, they pay the tax in installments. And if it is a corporate, also they must pay the tax in installments. Then now, come the end of the year, the return is filed, and any balance of tax becomes payable on or before the the 30th of the 4th month following the end of the year or the accounting year.
Okay.
Those are the taxes that applies.
And thank you. Wanja, the issue now, of course, we can't be discussing taxation without recognizing the place that we are in right now as a country and the globe at large, the pandemic COVID-19. You've said, you've outlined the number of taxes that you put on SMEs or you collect from SMEs. So far, highlight for me from KRA's perspective, how has been the collection over the past 3 months, where we've seen a massive blow by COVID-19 to majority of these businesses, and also touch a little bit on the tax law amendment and how it touches on the SMEs.
Okay, now for the last 3 months, we have noted a slight, and mark my words, it's actually a slight drop in the taxes. And what are those changes that came with the tax amendment that maybe have brought in that slight drop? The first change is in relation to the turnover tax. The turnover tax was initially at 3% of sales, and now the turnover tax is at 1% of the gross sales. But I try to think from the taxman point of view, we are not looking at the drop in taxes, but we are looking at the comfort of the taxpayer to pay the 1%. The other thing that we note, that came in relation to the Tax Procedures Act 2020 is the issue of the turnover. Initially, the persons who were supposed to pay turnover tax were the persons whose their turnover was falling between 500,000 to 5 million. Now, this has been increased, and turnover tax now is for persons whose turnover falls between 1 million to 50 million in a year. Also, corporates were exempted from legislating turnover tax. Now, corporates are actually paying, so that's a good thing for the SMEs.
Definitely.
The other change that came,
Yes, go on.
Yes, may I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. The other change that came was for pay-as-you-earn. Initially, the persons who were exempted from pay-as-you-earn were the ones whose tax payable was less than 13,000. But now, persons whose tax payable, persons whose gross income is 24,000 in a month are exempted from pay-as-you-earn. And also, the highest tax burden was up to 30%. That was reduced, and now the highest tax burden for individuals is 25%. And also for the corporates, the taxes were actually reduced from 30% for the resident corporates to 25%. So these are a few of the changes. But let me say, we have seen very many Kenyans coming in and actually paying that despite what has come in, the reduction, we still see that tax is still coming in.
Okay. So, when you talk about taxes, it's quite one of those emotive topics in the country. And even when you go back ages 2,000 years ago, the question of giving unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar and giving unto God what belongs to God, in whatever context that was, is the issue of compliance. And right now, Mr. Yega, tax compliance in the country of Kenya. Please elaborate to us why it is important, to pay taxes, as simple as the question seems. Why is it important for people to pay taxes?
Thank you very much, Noah. Thank you very much for raising that. We are saying that the source of government revenue is on taxation. And it is always important for the citizens to appreciate that they have an obligation to pay tax to the government. And I'm happy you've given that example of give Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So when you are tax compliant as an institution or as an SME, you have given yourself what I would call a competitive advantage. if you are to go to a bank to look for some loans, when they realize, for example, that you are tax compliant, that gives you an advantage and you can be considered. And even as we talk in this era of COVID-19, we are aware that there are so many institutions that would want to come up to give what I will call incentive to the SMEs. Now, if you go for that kind of approach and they realize that you are having a tax compliance certificate from Kenya Revenue Authority, of course, they look at you positively from the word go. So I want to appeal to Kenyans to make sure that they are tax compliant by ensuring that when it comes to due dates, they meet the obligations and they make their payments. So this is basically in compliance with the tax law. Thank you very much, Kipkembo.
Yes, so thank you. Very important because government has to deliver. But Wanja, you know, why I say tax is an emotive issue? Because once somebody gives their money to the government, they look at the whole chain. And there's been some level of positive criticism because you give taxes, then you see how this tax is used down the stream, and you ask yourself, okay, my money most probably is the one being used in that issue. And it's brought an issue of, you know, tax compliance, especially amongst the SMEs. They're asking themselves, why should I, you know, give my taxes, and the level of accountability is quite questionable. As the taxman, in this particular situation, do you look at the whole picture and say, yes, we also have to present the whole picture and give justice to the money that has been given to us in the long run?
Yes, we actually look into the whole picture in a way. But first and foremost, I would like to say, every time I drive on good loads on the superhighway, I like it and I say, this is the taxes that I've been paying. I would also like to note that the government has failures agencies, and each agency has its duty. Now, the Kenya Revenue Authority mandate is to collect the taxes. And immediately after we collect the taxes, we forward the money to Treasury. And then there is another body that actually oversees the usage of that money. So for now, allow me not comment about the usage, but about the collection, that is what my mandate is all about.
Definitely. And thank you for clarifying that. You know, again, hopefully throughout the KTN News Special, as we go by, we'll be able to address these other agencies for matters accountability. But let's, you know, zoom in or zero into SMEs tax compliance. We've been given very good numbers. We are seeing a lot, majority of businesses in the country are SMEs. How compliant are they towards paying taxes?
Yes, they are. Wow. Just as we have been told, about 1.5 million were the licensed one. Imagine 5.58 are not licensed. So that means that they're actually operating maybe in their households. And over this COVID period, we have actually seen the number of SMEs going a bit higher because people who are even professionals have actually had ample time even to go to the trading and all that. And so, what are those challenges that maybe we have been having in relation to tax compliance for the SMEs? The first one and the main one is the issue to do with availability of the data. As you notice, these 5.58 who are not licensed, they're operating within us. But I wish to note, the Kenya Revenue Authority is out to get data, and we have even got data from various entities. And this data will be able to help us net the given persons who should be in the tax net. Maybe the other concern or the other challenge that has been there is the challenge to do with inadequate tax knowledge in the informal taxpayer sector. Majority actually say, we want to pay tax, but what tax am I supposed to pay, and how should I pay it? And it's due to this that we have actually increased our awareness. And what we are saying, we want to take the message, ushuru mashinani, so that wherever the people are, we take the information there. And even over this COVID period, we have been taking the message through emails, through social media platforms, and all that. And we are actually advancing our modes and channels of communicating to our taxpayers, even to the use of SMSs and all that.
Yes, ushuru mashinani. And again, it comes back, Wanja, you know, to the issue of accountability. I know you said you won't touch on that. And those mashinani, they ask themselves, do we see good roads? If we don't see good roads and KRA is telling us, you know, ushuru mashinani, it seems like a contrast of ideas. But we shall continue with this discussion as we go on. Remember, you can speak to us at KTN News KE on Twitter at @IKnowAKipKemboi, and at the hashtag is KTN News Special, and we shall be sampling your views later on. But at this particular moment, we take a short break right here at KTN News Special. We'll return with more.
This is KTN News.